Hello, fellow fish nerds, and happy Fry Friday to you. A few weeks ago on our Fry Friday, I posted a video about these fish here. In fact, it was this video here, once again showing these fish. These fish, I'm not sure of the strain, but they did present me with some pretty cool stuff that I could do an experiment on, or two experiments, one of which is a Mendelian genetics experiment, seeing if I could prove that recessive traits come back in future generations, and also at the same time, same experiment to see if the fancy gonopodium male guppies can produce fry or if they are truly sterile. The main experiment I wanted to try to breed for is the fancy fin female you see on the screen right now. She's the only fish on the screen with a fancy anal fin, and I wanted to see if I could separate her from the rest of the colony and get that trait of the fancy fins to breed true, which would possibly produce male and females with the fancy fins, but really want to focus on seeing if I could get the females to breed with these fancy fins. So we always focus on the male guppies and seeing what we can do with the females. So what you're seeing actually in this video was the first time that I noticed their first batch of fry. And this video today is an update, a most recent update on these fry and how they're doing now, and how many of them do have fancy fins. I did have an earlier video that showed an update to show that the trait of the fancy fin is truly the recessive trait. It did come back, however, it was in a minority percentage of the offspring of breeding the male with the fancy fin female. So, to find out how these fish are doing now, what I'm doing to continue this experiment to see how I am trying to get this trait to breed true and maybe even produce my own strain, and an invention that I made, making my life in my fish room classroom a little bit easier for me and my students. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video. But to see these fish, I'll see you on the other side of the intro.
It's Mr. Science Geek. I hope my tanks don't leak. If it's information that you seek, and my videos take a peek, be sure to tune in each week. My singing and my jokes really reek.
So here they are in the same tank, the same strain of fish, and what you're seeing is the first batch, second batch, third batch, possibly fourth batch of fry from those original 4 adults. Now you're probably wondering, how can you have 4 batches in just 2 months? Well, there were 2 females that were definitely pregnant. There's a male right there with a normal gonopodium, and there's another male with a normal gonopodium. So if the long fin fancy gonopodium males are not fertile, then I will at least have short fin of the same strain. So these are for the most part, as much as I can tell at this point, the regular fin of this strain. I took the fancy fin males and females from this colony in this tank, and I separated them into another tank to try to separate and hopefully produce for that trait to breed true, making my own strain eventually later on, and if not, then at least having fun. Here is that fancy fin strain. There's of course the male, the original male. Here is the biggest female right there in the center. She is the original female that produced the fry with the fancy fin, along with some with the regular fin, because the regular fin is the dominant trait. And there is the blue fin female right there. She is from the first batch of fry. She's I think she's the only one of that batch of fry that has the fancy fins. Also, I think you might see in this frame, or in this scene, I guess you would say, there's 2 males. Here comes one right here. Look at how huge those pectoral fins are. I would say that's a Dumbo fins. That's a fancy finned male with the long fancy gonopodium. We'll see if that can breed true. Here's a better, closer up shot of the same tank with the fancy fin. There's the male. There's the older male, and then the oldest female. and it's a much better shot. The fry of these were staying towards the top. That female, I think, is going to have some longer fins once they get wet, but these were about the smallest that I could tell that they had fancy fins. I tried to get as many of them out as I could that I could tell had fancy fins. And I know that there will be some really young fry in the original tank that will have some fancy fins, and I will remove them and put them in this tank in this colony later on as I see the fancy fins develop. So stay tuned for more videos and updates on these as I hopefully get this trait to continue to breed further in fancy fin females and males, and seeing if I can add a little bit more color to them, a little bit more dependable color. Now, on for my invention, on for the infomercials. Super exciting. Are you tired of this? All this duckweed covering your tank, and you can't feed your fish without moving it out of the way? And once again, I'm sorry that it's shaky. I was trying to open up the food while holding my phone in the same hand. Are you also tired of shaky videos? Then I'm sorry you're watching my video. Then, if you're tired of all this duckweed and having a hard time feeding your fish and getting through all that duckweed to feed your fish, then look no further than my crazy, impressive invention. Here it is. It's made of space polymers. No, it's just made out of PVC. That's where the food goes. You make sure that there's no duckweed in the water level inside of the PVC pipe. It goes straight through to the bottom. You just crush up some food, put some food, you drop it through the tube. Pellets sink the best, obviously, as we know. Eventually, it works on flakes too. Flakes don't float as well. The food drops down. The fish know where to find it. The fry know where to find it. It even works with these slightly, pickier, less hardy albino strains like the albino blue topaz, as you see here. And it gives the fish a reliable place to be able to find the food. They don't have to fight the duckweed. You don't lose food to duckweed. It doesn't get rotting on top. You don't have to swirl it around with your finger every single time. You swirl the duckweed out of the way, and then other than that, the only time you have to move it is when you're doing regular tank maintenance or trying to catch fish. Yeah, you did see a fish swim over. That's not really a big deal. So here's how it's made. It's a 90-degree into a regular piece into a 90-degree, and then the T-piece into a regular PVC on the right side. It sits with the tank right here in the middle. The left side, it goes on the outside. The right side goes into the tank. The PVC on the right side goes down in the tank. And that's all it is. Nothing fancy. Hope you enjoyed it. Make your own. Feel free. It's nothing fancy. Until next time, stay tuned and stay fishy, people.